and then I'm going to send you the link. All right. Now let's send this link on over to Facebook and we're going to get started. Today, if you're just tuning in before we officially start, we are going to be breaking down the classic Black film, Love and Basketball. All right, Leroy, I'm adding you. I'm not sure why it's not. I tried to add you, so you might have to just share it.
Okay, that's
so
fine.
You can go on over to your All right. I am so excited. Leroy, are you ready?
I'm ready. You know I am. So.
I feel like Destiny's Child. Kelly, can you handle it? Michelle, can you handle it? You know how they say, are you ready? I am ready. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome live to More Than a Movie, where we break down classic Black films. I am Kendell Lenice. This is my YouTube channel. So do me a favor before we get started, please subscribe below. This is part of Kendell Lenice Live. This is my channel. So everything I do is to educate, elevate, and entertain. So today we're probably going to educate you as well as entertain you. Without further ado, my boy, Leroy McKenzie Jr.
What's up, girl? What's going on? I feel like, and I don't know if you watch the sports shows or whatever, but it used to be, this is several years ago now, Jamel Hill and Michael, I forgot his last name. I can't remember his last name, but they had a sports show on ESPN, and they would talk about all sports things. That's what this reminds me of, those two, and how they had that chemistry within themselves, and they could talk about, they could talk about sport. They were there to talk about sports, but they would talk about more than sports, and everything like that. So that conversation is really good.
So that's us. So he is not a stranger to my YouTube channel. He's been just go through my YouTube channel. You'll see him on multiple shows, including the first installment of More Than Just a Movie, the classic Black film breakdown. We did Love Jones last week. So we're going to come to you every week with a classic Black film. So if you have not seen last week's show with Love Jones, which is our inaugural show, if you will, look at it. It's right here on this page, and make sure you subscribe, because we are going to bring this to you every single week, as well as everything else that I have on my YouTube channel. But please, please, please subscribe and tell your people to subscribe. So do you want to add this to your page right now before we get started? Your
Already
Facebook?
Done.
See, look at him. He is on it, little Clarence Avon. All right, so Love and Basketball is what we will talk about today. And that is a special movie for me because I like all things Sanaa Lathan. Not just because they say we look alike in the same age, but because it's just something about her films that I love. So you'll probably see a lot of her films on here. But so you excited to talk about it, Leroy?
Yeah, absolutely. And you just brought up someone, and I hadn't even thought about it too. And she may be my thing that I do on Thursdays, where I usually try and take a celebrity or that has a multiple number of projects that they've done, whether it's music, whether it's movies, or just other things that I'm really, books, authors, and stuff like that. But Sanaa has, if you look at her collection of movies that she's done, it's her. You can tell she's been very selective in the roles that she's done. So she's done a great job in doing that. So yeah, you definitely do look like her. Y'all definitely are sisters. So you need to shout her out. Hey, Sine, you need to come get your sisters.
And yeah, I'm probably my birthday's in June and her birthday is in September, and I'm a little older, but we'll 50 is the year. But it's so funny because I have been told that I look like her, resemble, especially different times in my life where I look different. Maybe she looked different. She gained weight, she lost weight, whatever it was. So the first time was probably in like and I'll tell you this, 1997. Someone told me that, and this is how they told me, Leroy. This is how they told me. You look like Blade's mother, and Blade was Wesley Snipes.
Right.
So I was like, I look like Blade's mother, but what they were saying is Sanaa Lathan, apparently when they went back in time, Sanaa Lathan was his mom in the movie Blade.
Oh, you got
but
me.
I didn't know, right, but I didn't know that at the time. I was like, I look like Wesley Snipes' mother, what?
I don't look like nobody's mother.
And I'm in my 30s, like, what? No, I was in my 20s, I think, at that point. Like, what? What you mean? But so then that was the first time that I heard that. But I love all her movies. There's not a movie that she's done that I don't like. So today we're talking about Love and Basketball. I'm gonna get on to the point. So Love and Basketball premiered April 16th, 2000. So it is 21 years old. It doesn't seem like it, does it?
Yeah, time has really flown. When you think about Love Jones and you think about Love and Basketball, because they were out around the same time. Because Love Jones came out first.
97.
Yeah, there was this era in that. Then in the 90s, going into the 2000s, you had these great movies that were a reflection of us. And we talked about how Love Jones was a reflection of us. The your crew that you hang out with, you could relate to one of those 4 or 5 people that were in that crew and everything like that.
Yeah.
And Love Jones was like that, but Love and Basketball to me was the same way because it dealt with relationships, but it dealt with that high school crush, that college career, and then the post-college career and everything like that. And that's what we were going through at the time, at the time and everything like that. So we could definitely relate to these movies in that kind of way.
Absolutely. And they don't seem like they're 21 years old because we've seen them a million times.
Right.
We've seen them yesterday or last week or 2 months ago or 2 years ago. So to us, to new and younger people, it might seem like a new movie or an old school movie, but to us, it's still living. So let's talk about that all-star cast. We have Sanaa Lathan, we have Omar Epps, we have Alfre Woodard, we have a new actress called Regina Hall, who people think we look alike too, which is crazy. We have the classic, the Angie and Jesse from All My Children, Debbie Morgan. We had
love her, by the way. I used to love her, and I was a little kid watching All My Children. Don't ask me why, whatever. But I was in love with her. I thought she was the finest thing ever.
She is. She's beautiful with that dimple and that beautiful brown skin. She's beautiful. We have the All-State Man. We have Dennis Haysbert.
Mr. President too, because he played the president in some. I forgot what the show was.
Yeah, he did.
He played the president too. I've always liked him as an actor. Thought he was cool.
Yeah. We have also young Kyla Pratt, and we had Gabrielle Union, Boris Kojo. But it's beautiful to say that everyone that I named 21 years ago is still working to this day. They're still relevant to the culture and to our movie catalog to this day. So that's beautiful to see. When I was looking at all the people, I'm like, they are still doing their thing. So let's just get started. And I'm gonna tell you a little secret on how Love and Basketball, outside of Sanaa Lathan, but how it connects me and it's something special in there for me. And I'm gonna tell everyone in a moment. But let's talk about the first time we saw it. Shout out to my boy, Jamal Baker. I said I was going to shout him out because he was like, you can't do this show without me. Let me tell you, he and I went to the movies together to see this in 2000. So, and I remember the moment that we saw it. We know that that's our little connection. We went to the movies to see that. And I remember Jamal laughing so loud and just so talking about how fine Sanaa is. Of course, he's a man. How fine Sanaa is and how fine Regina Hall is. But I remember it was certain moments in the movie that he was cracking up, and it was towards the end, which we'll talk about, when she was like, "What?" He was like, "You sleepy?" And she was like, "Your knee hurt?" Does your knee hurt? Remember that when they were playing for love, and we'll talk about that. When she was trying to talk trash, like she was asking him, "What, you sleepy? You knee hurt? Like, what's the problem?" And I remember like it was yesterday how he was laughing at that part and how, we enjoyed that movie. And I've seen it 99,000 times since then. So shout out Molly Mom. I told you I would shout you out. And definitely that's one of his favorite movies as well, just like everybody else. So tell me, where were you? Do you remember when you saw the movie at the movie theater for the first time?
No, actually, I really don't. But I just know, I'll be honest with you. I know that it was one of those movies. It was a must see, go to the movies movie for me. Just in all of these movies that we're selecting are movies that I made it I made a concerted effort to go see these movies, to support these movies, because one, I just like they looked like they were going to be great movies at the time, and it was stuff, like I said, that we thought, that I thought that I could relate to, that I thought was going to be well written. It showed us, and all of those. It wasn't those shoot 'em up, kill 'em up, bang 'em up, gangster, whole lot of cursing type of movies that we were used to seeing prior to these movies coming out in the mid to late 90s and everything like that. So I was glad to see that shift that had gone on and everything like that.
Absolutely. Because my boy, and then since then we go 21 years, my boy Jamal, he is a movie buff. He'll be online critiquing movies and giving thumbs up and thumbs down, and he gives his picks and all of that. So I wonder, I have to ask him in another time, like, was Love and Basketball one of the movies that set that off? Or, and because when you see a good movie, that, like you said, and you see the trailers, that makes you want to see it, especially if it's depicting something different for Black people. Because we are not just, gangsters and prostitutes and thugs and drug dealers. Like, we fall in love. We have American stories or regular everyday life stories. It's just with Black folks. So I know Black folks love Love and Basketball, but there are a lot of other cultures that were introduced to it that see it as a beautiful love story.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So let's start from the beginning. Anybody that knows me knows why I love the beginning so much. All right, so I'm gonna set the scene. So they're on the basketball court as young people, and Kyla Pratt walks up, and they said, "Well, we heard we had new neighbors," and they're like, "Yeah, I heard it was a girl." So then Kyla Pratt walks up with her baseball cap on, and she's basically asking, y'all trying to play? And he's like, "Wait a minute, I thought the neighbor was a girl," but because she has the cap on and because she knows ball, they think it's a boy. Then when she gets ready to play, she takes the hat off, and they're like, "He is a girl." And then Candy Girl comes on, new edition.
Absolutely.
So when New Edition comes on, you already know how hype. Everybody that knows me knows that, I've been riding the New Edition for 40 years, almost 40 years. So
that made it your favorite movie automatically right there. They didn't have to do anything.
When I was watching that, and that was in the beginning, I sat up a little straighter, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be good." Because they know good music already. Yes. So tell me, all right, so we're going to do it differently. So and again, if you're just tuning in for the first time, we don't go in order of the movie. We just talk about different scenes. This will be a spoiler alert, because if you haven't seen it in 21 years, shame on you.
You ain't watched this movie by now. Even if you're a younger person, trust me, if you haven't watched this movie by now, you deserve to know what's going on. It deserves to be a spoiler alert for you and everything.
Right. And I forgot to mention Harry Lenice of the 5 Heartbeats. Yes. I didn't mention him, and he's in it as well. And he plays Sanaa Lathan's dad. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say one of the things that I enjoyed about the movie, and I don't know how much we'll talk about it, was the soundtrack and how the soundtrack with the music that it had in there. That's one of the soundtrack I have. I to this day I still listen to that soundtrack. It's just an awesome set of
Mm-hmm.
music, but the way that the director that the music that she used from that time, like you said, Candy
Mm-hmm.
Girl, it
Mm-hmm.
matched, the music went
Mm-hmm.
along with the time frame that they were, that they moved along and stuff like that. And I just thought
And
it
Guy,
was
and I like,
soundtrack. Yeah. Oh yeah,
yeah, with
absolutely.
Guy. And,
That was one of my
yeah.
favorite groups right there. So
Yeah, mine too.
she incorporated a lot of the music that we knew and
Yeah.
that we listened to and everything like that, which
Yeah.
was in that time frame when we were those ages, like you talked about,
Yeah.
Quincy and Monica when they first met and everything like that on the basketball court. That was I guess that time frame where Candy Girl would have been out 80, 84, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
she correlated the music to each of the time frames that she took us through in the movie.
Yeah. And Angie Stone's Holding Back the Years with
Yes.
Simply Red
Yeah.
did it first. But
Yeah.
that Angie Stone version,
She
ooh,
made
and
it.
then the
She made it
scene.
her own. She
Come on,
made
let
that
me
verse
tell
because
you
I love the.
something.
I love the. I love the. I love the
Simply Red.
yeah, Simply Red's version of it. That was
Mm-hmm.
that was one that was a great song. But Angie Stone made that song her own right there, and it's a
She did.
great tribute to an artist when you can make a remake of a song and make it your own like that. So I thought that.
Facts. And the scene that her song played in when, let's just start there. Let's just jump around. So the scene where Holding Back the Years came is when Monica went back home, right?
Yeah,
After
yeah, yeah.
playing in Italy, she went back home, or Spain. She went back home and she was packing up her trophies and stuff, and she was looking out that infamous window, and she saw Quincy and Tyra Banks, who we didn't name either. Tyra was in it
Yeah,
too.
no,
And yep, Tyra Banks, and he was in there planning for his wedding or moving, and they were playing that song, and Angie was singing, and that whole scene was so emotional, right?
well, yeah, because you got to think about it. I guess with that particular, like you were saying, she had just come back from overseas and playing basketball because she had wanted to play basketball, but of course, at that time, the WNBA wasn't around, so
Right,
women basketball players didn't have an option of staying here, like they talk about it in the
right,
movie. Their
right,
only option if they wanted to play professional basketball was to go
right.
overseas. And so she went overseas, played for a couple of years and everything like that. But um, she knew that that didn't satisfy her like I think she thought it would. and
Right.
and so when she decided to come back home, and everything, she was like, and it brought back, I guess, those memories when she was in her room, thinking about the relationship that her and Quincy had from being the young high school students that they were,
Right.
and running back and forth, to each other's house. That then that was back in the day when the windows when your windows was unlocked
Right.
like that. You could climb in the
Right.
window. I actually, and I know we're talking about this scene, but just to kind of talk about her being in the window and her reflecting.
It's so funny, Leroy, get out of my head. We do this all the time. I have a whole thing I want to talk about with the window. So
Yeah,
we do
yeah,
this all the time. So go
yeah,
ahead. Let's see
yeah.
if you got the same thing I got.
But the most compelling, or what you want, a passionate scene to me was when that night that Quincy's parents are arguing.
I
He gets up out of his bed and all he does is gets out of his window and goes into her room. He lifts up. He didn't. I don't even, She didn't even come to the window. No, did she? Yeah, she
Neither
did
one
come
of
to the
them
window.
even spoke or said a
Right.
word. She didn't even
All she
come.
did.
She just
Right.
handed him a blanket.
And he laid on the floor and she got back in the bed. I was just like,
Yeah.
man, that was power. I mean, but
Yeah.
that just goes to show you, and this was one of the things that I was going to, I guess, talk about, was that friendship. Because, and I don't know if you've had an opposite sex friendship like that you had this connection with somebody. It was just, it had nothing to do with wanting to get with that person or whatever. You two just had and they did, they
Yeah.
had such a friendship in college.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the other scene that I like too, but that one was so just compelling to me, where they didn't have to say anything to each other.
Yeah.
It was just like, I know, you know,
Yeah.
I got you. It was basically, I
Yeah.
got you. I'm right here. All right, whatever. Just
Yeah.
here's the blanket.
Yeah.
Go to sleep. I
But
just loved. I
it's
love
so,
that scene.
and me too. And I wanted to talk about the window. So let's go back because we were talking about the holding back the years and that whole scene.
Mm,
And so the next day, Leroy set up the scene for the window and how significant, the window was to this movie and to these two individuals, to the point where after the holding back the years scene, and when she comes out and she wants him to come out 2 weeks before he gets married, and they come out the window again and they meet. So that window has a significant role. And when he asked, do you wonder why, you were asking me why I don't want to play? And she said, it's not fun anymore because you're not in it. Meaning that, yeah, basketball was something that I loved because I loved Magic Johnson. And then Quincy loved basketball because his father played. And that was a commonality that they had in their friendship and in their relationship, both playing at USC together, one on the men's team, one on the women's team. So that was something that they shared, and that reminded Monica Sanaa of Quincy Omar. So when she didn't want to play, he kept pressing her, a few scenes before, like, I can't believe I never met a girl. Wait a minute, I never met anyone who loved basketball as much as you. And she was like, stop pressing it, let it go. So when they got to the window, she revealed because it's not you in it. So it seems like a sentimental part. And then he says, you think, but this is my part. I love you since I was 11 and the ish won't go away. It just don't go away.
It's like it won't let me go. But
Right.
yeah,
So
that
she's
was deep.
bearing her, right. And she's bearing her heart at that point. And you think it's sentimental. And then he says, you always think the sun rises and sets on your egg. I've probably been told that too once or twice. So I guess me and Sanaa are twins in another way, because I think I've been told that too. But he says, you think the sun rises and sets on your egg and you think it's going to be sentimental. And she's like, better late than never. And then that's when he says, well, and she said, I'll play you one-on-one. Well, what are you playing for? And then she says, your heart. And I'm like, so right there it says, because you entertained her and played her, then your feelings were still there. And like she says, you always said that you wouldn't let me win, or if I won, it's because you let me. So that said a lot too. There was a lot said without saying those words. So what you think about that whole scene?
No, I thought that was one of the most important scenes, because, like you said, and you just brought something to my mind. I hadn't even thought about the significance of the window,
Yeah.
but because think about it, and we may go back to this point too. Remember when they went to their proms, and after the prom,
they had
they
sex through the window.
No, but even before that, they were talking at the window because she had gotten her letter. She had gotten her letter. He told her where he was going to be going to school.
Yeah.
So that window, like you said, with her reflecting back on the memories that she had of that window and what it mean. I was just, you made me think about that. I'm like, oh yeah, there were a lot of things that happened at that window.
At that window.
Yeah.
When she got the acceptance. Exactly. When she got the acceptance letter and she was afraid to read it, and she wanted him to read it. So they connected again. That was almost like their lifeline.
Yeah.
That window. It wasn't a phone line where you can connect. It was that lifeline to their relationship, and the significance of their relationship was in that window, back and forth. Like, hey, come here. I'm going there. I'm going outside. And then meeting in the middle between their window. There was a lot to be said about that. And then even after the prom, when she had, and everyone's like, oh Lord, she having sex in her grandmama's pearls. Because remember, her mom gave her the pearls. And And it's so funny because my daughter, we had watched it again a few weeks ago, and my daughter said on Twitter they were saying that, oh, she's having sex in a grandmama's pearl, and I never thought about that, and
Right.
she was. So that was her. That was a beautiful, pure moment. She had on her white dress. She had on her pearls. That was a boy that she had been in love with since she was 11 years old. And they had sex to Maxwell. You know, Maxwell's voice always pops up on a Black Love scene. He was on Love Jones too.
Hey, Max does that.
Right.
Definitely. But back to where you were talking about that.
It was a pure scene.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It was a pure scene. Mm-hmm.
Right, because it and like you said, it was because that's your, and say that was her innocence, and it was even, I think, even his too.
Yeah.
Even to a certain extent, that was probably, and I don't
that
I
love
don't know
connection.
And I don't know if it was Quincy's first time, but you could, like you said, it had that feel like it was her first time. In that experience.
In her own time. Think
Yep,
about it. He had been the only man that she had ever been with.
Right. So, that definitely, that whole, like you said, that whole window scene and them being outside and then them coming into whoever room, I don't even know whose room it was, if they were
hers.
Well, okay, it was hers. That they went on and everything like that. And that was, like you said, it was just so many things that in this movie that I believe that we could relate to, and things that we saw and we think about when we think about our time being that age, and especially with, like I said, with us when that came out in 2000, that was around the same time that we had experienced a lot of that stuff that they had just experienced.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of things that we could relate to, back then and everything like that, even closer, and even, now 21 years later, still being able to, relate to it and being able to be like, wow, yeah, okay. So they did an excellent job of, like I said, of writing that movie and seeing how it plays out and how it played out.
Yeah. And then just the comfortability that they had with each other, even as friends, she called him Big Head all the time. And
that was my funniest scene right there, because you do when you and that's what I meant about that, about having a friend that's of the opposite sex, and you could tell that their relationship that they had. She was and she was like, well, wait a hoop. He was like, I know this. She was like, I'll be waiting for you at your car, big head. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was just that camaraderie or whatever that they had, just that friendship, like you said, that they had, and even the conversation in the car when they started talking about going to the dance.
Yeah, going to the dance. And who you taking, Spalding? And she looking like, who's Spalding?
That was
basketball's biggest day says Spalding. And
even
then
I thought that was cool.
Right. And then, of course, she was kind of jealous, but also that banter, when he was taking Gabrielle Union, and she was like, oh, I'm going to leave you satisfied. And she's like, okay. But there's always that fast girl at the school that the boy is looking at because she's easy, or she has a reputation, where Monica didn't have that reputation. Her only reputation was being a ball player. Right. So just even that little friendship, but still jealousy when she went, and then fast forward to the dance, and she was like, no, he said, who's that? She said, he sure ain't Spalding. It was Boris Kojo.
For sure. Yeah,
it was Boris Kojo, and they dated for a minute. They went on a couple of dates before he married Ari Parker. Yeah, but they didn't get along, and they both said that wasn't gonna work out. They weren't feeling each other. But
really?
Later for them to be on Brown Sugar, all three of them, which we'll talk about months to come. We'll talk about Brown Sugar. That's one of my one of my daughter's favorite movies.
Now, but wasn't this Love and Basketball also when Omar Epps? I thought Omar Epps had dated Sanaa.
He did.
They were dating around that time.
Yeah, they started dating after. No, Boris and Sanaa dated when he first came to America from Germany. They
Oh,
had
okay.
dated a while before, but you're right. After, because Omar Epps was with Keisha from Total, who he's now married to. That was his
Yeah.
girlfriend beforehand.
Right.
And then they kind of broke up or did the young love thing. And then when Sanaa and Omar were filming the movie, this is reported that they started,
Right.
connecting then, and they dated for a few months. And then, he went, I guess, back, or
Back to,
it
yeah, I
just
think he
didn't
went
work
back
out
to,
or whatever. But yeah, I'm sure every guy gonna try their hand at Sanaa for a minute.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So.
But so let's talk about that dance scene, since we went into that with Boris Kojo not being Spalding, and how she was sitting. She was still sitting like she was on the bench as a ball player with that dress on.
Forgot she had a dress on. The fellas walking by was like,
And then that's when they played Guy I Like. But how they were dancing, like you said, it brought back those old memories. Even though it was in 2000, it brought back the 90s where we would dance all hard and stuff.
Absolutely.
Actually the 80s where we danced, because it was supposed to be in the 80s,
yeah.
where we danced all hard, like 88, 87.
Yeah.
But so tell me, what did you think about, and we can talk about this briefly, but Gabrielle Union's character in that scene, in that basketball scene, and then in that prom scene? Did you know girls like that?
Well, I mean, I didn't. It wasn't like I had them hanging around me or anything like that in high school. I was the nerd kid in high school. So, the folks I hung around, and I did play. I mean, I played basketball, but I never worried about being a part of the it crowd or what have you or whatever. It was never about being popular for me, because when I played basketball, and I was about my books, but also too. My father was a teacher at the school and coach, so you wasn't
doing that. But them fast girls were still there though. Those fast girls.
He got spies. He had spies all around the school. So it wasn't like the stuff could happen or whatever. But I mean, in high school you had girls like that, and you also had guys that made their rounds around certain girls and stuff like that and everything. And even the fact that when Gabrielle Union's character has the conversation with her girlfriend to be able to give the phone number to
at the game.
At the game. Like what?
At the game. She was shooting her shot for real.
Well, no, she didn't really shoot her shot, because she gave it to Sanaa. If she was shooting her shot, she'd have gave it to Quincy herself. But I mean, in high school, you're not doing that. Most of the girls weren't going to shoot their shot and approach a guy. It was going to be the guy that might have approached the girl. If anything that happened like that and stuff like that.
Because the women would be passive aggressive, like she was. She was kind of going around the barnyard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I get you. Yeah, that's the perfect way to describe it. Passive aggressive, because she used Sanaa in order to be able to get the note, and even them riding in the car.
And then just her in the middle of it.
Right.
Dang.
Right.
And then when she's like, "Dang, girl, I ain't know Nike made dresses. Like, don't be coming for her."
Yeah, I mean, but even when they were riding in the car before she gave him the note and they were having the conversation and stuff, and then she says, "Well, yeah, I forgot Gabrielle's character's name, but she said, yeah, she gave me this note to pass on to you."
Shawnee.
Like, "Oh, give it here." Yeah, was it okay? He's like, "Yeah, Shawnee with the big."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, that's how we talk too."
That sounds like a real conversation.
No, but see, that's what I'm saying. That was to me, we could relate to that, because I could see that conversation happen. Like you said, it wasn't
like
that
whatever.
Was that was like, and even when they went further into their conversation talking about basketball, he was like, "Well, what are you going to do?" And he was critiquing her game, and she was like, "Well," because he was telling her that she was, that she was, let's say, mean or whatever in the way that she was, I don't say playing, because she was like, well, if I was a man and I was acting this way, you all would say I was doing this or whatever.
Mhm.
But since I'm a
Mhm.
girl, it's being seen as being, being mean or being this, that, and the other. And
Right.
there was a double standard, I think,
Right.
to what she was saying and everything like
Right.
that. So that that I thought that scene was really real, and
Yeah.
those are conversations that I could see happening,
Yeah.
especially like I said, between two
Yeah.
friends, and when you have that, like I said, the dynamic of it being a male female friendship, because
Yeah.
I had one of those in college, and we'll get to the college years. We'll talk a little bit about that, where you have that friend. Now they have become a couple by then, but the
Yeah.
friendship that they had came first before they
Yeah.
actually had the relationship and everything like
Yeah.
that. So I thought it was
So, and then we're going to go to the college years, definitely. So let's first, let me just talk about how I loved, because it was about love and basketball, how they broke the movie into quarters. Like,
absolutely,
I love that.
yeah.
First quarter, second, third quarter, third and fourth. And I'm a basketball fan. In college, I was a basketball manager for the boys team. I kept the score, kept the books. Back then, you
Oh,
kept
okay.
the books manually.
Yep.
It
Had
wasn't no computer.
you
You
sat
kept a
at that
manual.
big, sat
Right,
at the big
exactly.
table for y'all to keep the
Right.
score and to keep the
And you
books.
kept the score with the big thing, the big grid that sat on the table, and you would hit it. Or then,
Yep.
even when if that wasn't working, then the manual way, flipping
Yep.
over those cards. You remember that?
Yep. Absolutely.
So I love basketball, and I love, but I was the manager in college.
Okay.
So I know the game. So just knowing that, and knowing that she had to train, and how that was, and that frustration that you see or with some players, and those decisions and all of that. But I just love how they broke it in quarters. That was
Yes.
very clever. That was
Yes.
very clever. So high school, let's finish up with high school. So even before high school, well, let's just talk about Regina Hall. Regina Hall being,
Mm,
her big sister, but they
I was
were
gonna go
really
there.
like only a year apart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
later, which we'll talk about later, they went to do Best Man together, and they are literally best friends in real life. So I thought that
Oh,
was cool.
okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
just
go
it was
ahead.
just no, it was just so many things. Even like you said, even their relationship was. I don't know if you remember when uh when Regina Halls was doing Sanaa Lathan's
Her
hair
hair.
the first
Mm-hmm.
time that she was going to go to school with Quincy.
Yeah.
She was like, "Can you do my hair real nice?"
Right.
Trying to look really nice for him. You could tell then that was that, I guess, that 11-year-old or
Yeah.
whatever. But then when she was going to the prom, when she was
The
gonna go to
dance.
the prom, yeah, she was gonna
Yeah.
go to the dance, and Regina Hall's character tells her, "Hey, I got somebody I want you to meet." She was like, no, she was like, well, he want him out. He's in college and this, that, and the other,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So, I thought that their relationship was just like a big sister, little sister relationship.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And then helping her when she was younger, and then helping her when she was older, both the mom too. So
yeah,
what was interesting to me too is, as a mother and as a daughter, the
mm,
mother-daughter dynamic, which we'll talk
yeah,
about in
yeah,
high school. And then, but college is when it really broke the and they really had that heart to heart, that real
right,
conversation in that kitchen. And
right,
we'll talk about that. But their relationship, where the mom was prim and proper, and then the daughter was sporty and into sports. So they didn't have that connection, whereas Regina Hall and the mom had the connection,
right,
because they were girly girls, and
right,
they talked about those type of things. So she was closer to her father because of basketball, and he came to the games. And then later it's revealed that she wanted the mom to come, and the mom thought she didn't come. So I just love that. And then they come to an understanding in the kitchen, and after she leaves Spain. So we'll talk about that. Let's go into the college years. So third quarter, they're in college, and both go to USC. Um, and they're both playing basketball, one for the girls team, one for the boys team. Quincy is a superstar. Sanaa Lathan, Monica, as just, she's not a starter, but she fills in when someone else, leaves. So I have to say, so when they go to college and they're on the basketball team, my dear friend that I grew up with is in that scene, Wendy Levy. We went to elementary school together. She's the one that says, Monica, don't even trip. She mad because she bow-legged. Remember she said that? She had like wild hair. That's Wendy. So a fun fact about Wendy, she went to school with me. She was a sweetheart. We were cool. I would go over her house and all of that after school in the 6th grade. She was in the 7th grade. I think I was in the 6th grade. But she goes on to be the co-creator of Mixed Chicks products. So the shampoos, the conditioners that you see at the beauty supply store, you see in Target and Walmart, she is the co-creator of that. And guess who? Let me tell you how everything circles back around. So she created Mixed Chicks. So everybody's heard of that. If you haven't, it's in every store. It's everywhere. Her mom is Black and her dad is white. But guess who she created it with? Bobby Brown's sister-in-law.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It goes back around. So they created Mixed Chicks together. And I just love to see people that I know, people that I grew up with, people finding their passions and finding their niche and starting businesses. And, I don't know if acting was something that she was actively pursuing or she fell into that, but how she switched gears. And now she's a huge businesswoman, doing amazing when it comes to business. And she was in Love and Basketball. So shout out, Wendy. Yeah. So, all right. So when she goes to college and they switch over to that 3rd quarter and she's playing, what do you think about when she first went to the team? Do you feel like that Monica had something to prove? Because remember, she got in trouble for trying to dunk and stand and do all of that, and she wasn't starting. So what do you think that was like for a basketball player going in, and you feel like you have your boyfriend? He ain't got nothing to prove. He's the guy. He's the man on the team. But then you have her, and then it switches. So let's talk about that.
Now I'm gonna tell you, get out of my head, because I was just talking about thinking the same that's when that shift happened. Now Monica going into college, it happened, and I think this happens to a lot of high school players that are good players going into college. They don't really, when you go to each level. When she made the transition from high school to college, the level of competition is just as good. You're one of many that are good on that college team. So she was showboating. She was used to showboating. She was used to being the best. She was used to being the best player on the court. When she went to college, you're not the best. She wasn't the best anymore. You had somebody that was older, that was a couple years older, that was more experienced, that knew the game, and she was used to be able to act in a certain way. And she got with a coach that humbled her and let her know, no, you're not going to come on my team and act this way, and you're not even a starter. So don't think that you're going to come out here and show up everybody else, because it's not about you. I mean, even the coach, the first time that they're out running and stuff like that, the coach tells her, look, leaders lead from the front, not in the back. She was challenging her, and Monica wasn't used to being challenged the way that she had been challenged there in college.
Because she was the woman in high school. Then when you get to college, sometimes you got to start as a small fish.
You do. No, you start back over. Each time it's starting back over. Even from middle school to high school, you start back over. From high school to college, you start back over. And even from your college years into your career, you start back. You start back over in gaining the experience that you need, because each level that you go to, it builds on the experience that you have. So her coming into college, or going into college, she's around people that she's never seen before. They're from all over she's playing with, like I said, other women that are just as talented, or if not
Mm-hmm.
more talented than her. So she had this cockiness about it. She's always had that. She was always
Mm-hmm.
passionate about basketball. She was always good at
Mm-hmm.
basketball, but she
Mm-hmm.
had to learn. She had to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to get into the starting position. Now the young lady that was ahead of her wound up getting hurt, and that wound
Mm-hmm.
up giving Monica her opportunity to be able
Mm-hmm.
to come into to
Sidra.
play and everything. Yeah,
Sidra got her.
Sidra, right.
Mm-hmm.
And even Sidra in their conversation when they were overseas, she's like, "You always
Mm-hmm.
been a cocky, you know."
Right.
So
Right.
she always had that competitiveness in her, and then even into her career, her basketball career, overseas, she was competitive and always wanted to win. She was used to
Yeah.
winning, and in college it was the same way. But I love the way that the movie shifts from Quincy being the superstar coming in, and he was the big name and everything like that, to to Monica now becoming the superstar when she gets that starting spot. And even I love the scene where they show her dribbling, dribbling the basketball, putting that time
Mm-hmm.
in the gym to be able to hone in
Start.
on who she was, and to be able to take advantage of the opportunity that she got when the girl that was ahead of her got hurt, and she
Absolutely.
then became the starter and became a great player and everything
Yeah.
like that. So that's how I saw that, and I thought that was a nice dynamic that they
Yeah,
put in
that's
there.
good insight. Good insight,
Yeah.
Leroy. That's good. All right. I said I just want to just expound on something. I talked about
Mhm.
Wendy Levy co-creating Mixed Chicks after she was in Love and Basketball. I didn't want to just say Bobby Brown's sister-in-law. It's Kim Etheridge. Both of those. So Kim Etheridge and Wendy Levy. I don't want, because women don't want to just be labeled as somebody's sister-in-law after she created this multi-million-dollar business. So it's Kim Etheridge, Alicia Etheridge Brown's sister. So I just wanted to say that. All right. Because I want her to be like, oh, I'm just
No,
reduced to a
absolutely,
sister-in-law.
absolutely.
But all right. So let's talk about there's so many hot scenes in college. All right. So let's talk about, we can start slowly before the breakdown. So it's so cute that they're, hugging in college and walking around, and he's like, you're the
That's what
only,
you do.
I trust you. Right. I trust you because you're the only one that's real. So he knows he can't trust all these other women like, hi, Quincy, hi,
Right.
because he's on the team. So he knows he got a tried and true right here. He knows that she's real and she loved him since they were kids. So she doesn't want anything from him. So it's their comfortability in knowing that with her. So he felt secure and she feels secure. And then they're going to the room, and then remember they're playing, and Guy comes on again. Or I think Guy comes on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was I like. Yeah, that was one of the
I
things I
like
like.
it comes on, and they're playing basketball, and they're playing kind of like strip basketball, I guess.
That's exactly what it was. It was strip
Right.
basketball.
So those scenes are really cute. So you see that the love kind of continued from when they had sex at the prom, which was good. They had sex that day. They didn't go to the next scene where they broke up. So at least they kept steady and happy for a while. And then when the rumors came out that Quincy's father, Zeke, was cheating on his mother, Debbie Morgan, then things started to begin to shift because he was having conversations with his son. His son believed him. Remember, his mom throughout high school was
Right.
like, watch these groupies, watch
Right.
these girls who try to hang on. So when you see that was kind of a thread throughout the movie, where Debbie was telling her son, Quincy's mom, I'll say, was telling her son to watch these groupies. And then you see throughout their high school years where he's working late or staying late and he stops playing ball. And then, he has a conversation when the side chick said she's pregnant, and then the son is believing it. Later to find out, because the mother has proof, she had a private investigator, that he was cheating. So let's talk about that scene where they were out at the pool and it's Quincy and his mom, and she has those pictures. Because you're close to your mom. So let's have that. What was that mother and son bonding period like at that point over that bad news? What did you think about that scene?
Well, I think Quincy, like you
And
said,
they
he
were
didn't.
playing Marvin Gaye,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, yeah. I can't remember the
I
song.
think it was Marvin.
I think it might have been. I think it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why the song Marvin Gaye, "Just to Keep You Satisfied," was in
It
my
was.
is in my head right
Yeah.
now. But Quincy didn't want to believe it, and like you said, um, he didn't want to believe it because he knew the environment that they were in, and his dad had already, I think, had the conversations about the groupies, about these women that were hanging on, and they were trying to do this and trying to do that. So I'm quite sure well, evidently it wasn't the first woman that this had happened
Mm-hmm.
with him. So it had happened multiple times before. So that's what Quincy was like, oh my, it's just another one of those hanger-ons just trying to make some noise and everything. That it's not true. And that's when she pulled out. And she was like, no, she had the proof to show that it was real, that that he was having an affair with the woman and everything like that. And it was something that Quincy didn't want. He didn't want to believe, and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't know how to deal with. And his mom, she was of course upset. She was upset because here she was living the life that she wanted to enjoy, but it came at a cost. It came at a cost of this husband stepping out on her. Yeah, she
Mm-hmm.
had all the money, she had the house, and that's another
Mm-hmm.
thing women got to realize too. You may want that lifestyle, but understand that with that lifestyle sometimes comes at a cost. It comes with
Mm-hmm.
you want the man that got the six figures or the eight figures and is making all this, and or is the ball player, or is is the entertainer. A lot of times this comes with that,
Mm-hmm. Facts.
because they're sought after, and they feel like they have their pick of,
Options.
yeah, right, there you go, perfect, their options, that they have options even if they are married. It's like, oh well, sometimes some of them have the attitude, well, she ain't going nowhere,
Yeah.
so I can have
Yeah.
my cake and eat I can have my cake and eat it too. So they wound up in these predicaments or situations and stuff like that, where they wind up hurt, or wind up saying, wind up having to either accept or say, you know what, no, I'm going to leave. Because if you
Yeah.
notice, Debbie, when the mom, when she decided to leave him after that, and then when they are at the hospital, when they're at the hospital and they see each other, and he asked her how she's doing, she said, I'm happy.
Yeah. And she
I
looked
was,
happy, changed it. He's like,
yep,
you changed your hair. Almost didn't
mm-hmm,
recognize you. She
yeah,
had to wash that man out of her hair and
mm-hmm,
start all over. She had she had, remember that? And she had her little boo. She had her new boo standing in the wings. Did you
you know, that came along with it, and you could tell that the character Quincy was crushed by that, because when he's talking to his father had, prior to that, his
Yeah.
father had told him it's not true. He had told him that no, it's not true, but
So
then he finds out that
betrayal.
it is true, and yeah, and it's a disappointment for a
Yeah.
son
Yeah.
when you having that relationship with you, the man that you know and you trust with everything that you are as a young man, and that you depend on to
Mm-hmm.
give you, somebody who was giving Quincy advice. He was telling Quincy about all of these things, he was
Yeah.
saying to him and
Yeah.
everything like that. But here you are, you're telling me not to do this and this, but go doing this and this. So he was definitely, I think, disappointed when he finds out from his mother, that his father had lied to him, had cheated on his
Yeah.
mother and everything like that. Because
Yeah.
as a son, you hurt like that. You don't want that to happen to your mother, especially with your father, by your
Right.
father.
Right.
That's very hurting.
Yeah. So let's fast forward so we don't run out of time. Let's fast forward to when he tells
Mm-hmm.
Monica, and they're on the bleachers, and it's just she
Yeah.
and him and her on the bleachers, and he's saying, my pops, he did this, he's vulnerable, he's sad, he don't know what to think, and she's there for him, trying to be there for him, and then curfew comes. And in the middle of him expressing himself and saying how he's hurt and he's not sure and his pops did this, and she's like, I gotta go, because if I don't go for curfew, then I might not start tomorrow. So I gotta leave. And she's deciding almost if she should stay. And then he acts like y'all men do, like everything's good. Oh, never mind, I'm good. And she leaves. So that right there, that communication is totally off on his part, because he doesn't say, you know what? You need to stay because I'm hurting. And then she doesn't catch the sign, or she doesn't really kind of put him first. She's worrying about the basketball, which was going to be the problem later. So she leaves and he's like, no, I'm cool. But then he really wasn't. So in that scene, go ahead. Ask the question.
I was going to ask you, so you think that she should have stayed?
I do. I honestly do think. I think that she should have stayed, and I get both sides. I get the fact that basketball was her life. It was her everything. She had to make curfew so she can play. If she didn't make curfew, she wouldn't have played, not even started. She wouldn't have played at all. Right. So, but I get the hurt that he had. So that's why I think the conversation could have gone further. Like, can you walk me back to my dorm? Maybe we can finish the conversation at the dorm.
But remember, she said, I can call. She said, I'll call you. So they could have talked on the phone.
But that wasn't going to be good enough. You know what I'm saying?
Well, me personally, I thought he was selfish. I thought that was selfish of him.
No, he was.
To ask her to do that.
No, he was definitely selfish. But that's why I'm saying they could have come to a compromise where maybe he could have walked back with her and they could have continued the conversation. So I get both sides. When you're hurt, you act like a fool sometimes. But I think he was hurt and didn't know how to express it. So I thought that they could meet in the middle. I don't think that she should have just left him sitting there. You know, I think they should have walked together.
But see, that's what I'm saying. She said, I can call you when I get to my dorm. And that could have been him saying, well, or she could have said, walk me to my dorm, and we can talk. And I don't think he made that offer. I just know that she asked him about calling him, and he just
because he was in his feelings. He was in his feelings.
And I get that he was in his feelings. He was in his hurt. He was hurt. But and she even said it when they had that conversation with them coming out of when he was coming out of the dorm, he was coming out of the dorm, and they were having that conversation, and like she was explaining to him, he didn't know how to be there for you and do basketball. He didn't know that. And then, like I said, I think she understood him and wanted to be there for him.
Yes,
I agree. She only knew, okay, this is the way that I can be for him. She had to go back in her, in her room so that she wouldn't not be able to start and that she wouldn't miss curfew.
No.
I just thought that was selfish on his part to give up everything that she had done and that she had worked hard for. But she had, up to that point, like she said, she had worked hard to start. And now all of a sudden, to just throw all of that out the window because because of everything and not taking away anything that did being disappointed. But here's, like you said, here's what we can compromise and what we can kind of meet in the middle to be able to do, so I can be there for you. I still get to keep my starting job as the basketball player and move on. So.
But see, I think you're going further. So I'm in that instance, because then when you get to the other, when he was trying to cheat with the girl and he was being a jerk, he was being a butthole, really was. But I'm talking about in that moment on the bleachers, and let's just stay there for a moment. I think that he was in his feelings. He didn't know how to come out of it. She didn't know how to still be there. She was very sincere. You can see it on her face. She wanted to be there. She was conflicted because she is a ball player. So that's why in that particular scene, I can understand him saying not the conversation, but maybe walk her, because they still could have finished. And I don't know what the rules were like in the dorm, but he could have come there. I think that he was just stuck in his feelings at that point.
No,
but then I don't completely think he was being a jerk there until he was starting being with the girl and he was acting all funny and weird and disrespectful to her. And then, taking her that scene where he's like, I took to be the Burger King. You know what I'm saying? I think at that point. when
And
she
that's
went
another
back
one
home.
too. Monica
Yeah, 'cause-
Calhoun was in there too. I was just
yeah.
like, I'm just sitting here thinking about all the
Yeah.
folks that was in this movie. That's like,
Exactly,
wow.
exactly. But then when he was, messing around with her, I was trying to think of Monica Calhoun's name. I don't even think they gave her a name.
Yeah, I don't even
But
know if
with
they gave her a
Monica
name.
Calhoun, and I first of all was mad at her. I'm like, everybody on this campus know that that's Quincy's girl. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you being like that? You know he's with her, and you know that you just a plaything right now. So what's going on? And then when Monica was like, she was like, I'll leave. Monica was like, no, I'll leave. That would have been me. Like, nah, you ain't gotta leave. Y'all can go to Burger King. I'm out. I'll leave. But the part where, okay, and then after that, when she goes home and her mom was like, you staying for dinner? It's only a game, which pissed her off because she didn't even ask. The mother didn't even ask what's wrong. She assumed that it was the game. So she got back in her car and went back to the dorm, and he was leaving out of her dorm and he was looking for her. So at that point, everybody's like, okay, they're going to work it out. It's going to be good. He ain't going to be a jerk no more. And then he was a total jerk to her. And I felt my heart sunk for her when she was sitting there. She was like, well, he was like, you forgot to be there. And she said, I didn't know how to be there. And if I was here, I wouldn't have started, and I did that scene on TikTok. I did that whole scene on TikTok. But it's almost, and he's like, you forgot to be there. But I'm like, that's not fair because she was there. She was there the way she knew how to be there. Absolutely. And I think he turned into a jerk. So what do you think about that scene? I know you went ahead and went on that scene, but that scene, what do you think about that conversation?
No, I think he, like I said, I think he was selfish, and he was only thinking about himself. He didn't care about Monica's career. He didn't care about her and her playing basketball and everything like that. The only thing that he was concerned about is, like you said, you forgot to be there for me. No, she didn't forget. To me, she didn't forget to be there for you. Like you said, and you said it perfectly. She was trying to be there for him the best way that she knew how at that time, and that was, hey, I'm not trying to lose what I've worked hard for. Yeah. But at the same time, still try and be there for you, to console you, to be there so that you can have somebody to talk to. And like I said, it wouldn't be a movie if it didn't have that drama in it or whatever, anything like that.
Because she ended up scoring, ended up starting, and got her place. She had the best game ever, and he had the worst game.
Right, exactly. And so that, when he went out, of course, when he went out with the other girl, I was like, yeah, that was just cold. It was disrespectful, and it was honestly, it's how men and women act. They act petty
and childish.
Yeah, exactly. Petty and childish, because he wants to make her jealous, and the only thing that he said was, she was there for me, Yeah. So it was just like, nah, I was like, nah, dude, that was totally wrong. Even his boys, they knew.
I think he owed her more because of their history. Yeah. He owed her more, and he, like you said, he knew how important that was to her. But I think sometimes when you're in your feelings and you're young, like, you don't know how to channel that, because he was taking out the anger really for his father on her.
On her, absolutely.
Because she was the closest thing to him. So he didn't know how to articulate what he really was feeling. So he took it out on her. And then the look on her face when he was like, I'm going pro, I'm leaving. Yeah. And she's like, well, wait, like, I'm your girlfriend, I'm your best friend. We didn't even talk. You didn't even tell me. And now you're just going to leave. And then it's fast forward 5 years. After that, it fast forwards 5 years. So so anything else you want to say about college, and then we'll shift to after college?
No, I'm good. I think
you good?
Yeah.
All right. So fourth quarter, right? She goes to play in Spain. And they're like, Monica, when she's running through the streets, and she's like this WNBA player, and she's there by herself. And they show her there, like you said, they showed her when she met Sidra there, and they kind of rekindled, but also made peace with, I guess, their relationship. And she walks into the hospital room after Quincy was hurt. So go.
No, and I think that because they hadn't seen each other, and she was like, she tried to reach out to him, or he said he had tried to reach out to her when Magic had retired. So you had all of
Mhm.
those things that had gone on and stuff like that, and then um, Quincy's new
And
fiance,
she says,
which is
"Oh, my phone must have been broke." I was like,
yeah,
"Yeah." She was ignoring that call. She was
yeah.
ignoring it. She didn't know what to say. Her phone
And
wasn't
I
broke.
hadn't thought about her. I hadn't thought about her ignoring the call.
I did
I
because how
really
she said it quickly. She was like,
okay,
"Oh, my phone must have been broke." Nah,
okay,
girl, you ain't know what to say to Quincy after all that time because your heart was still a pumping.
yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly. And so she finds out that he's engaged. That's when she finds out that he's engaged. And she's like, oh, you know, it was like, I was like, wow. And because you see Tyra Banks, she's like, oh, she's like, had that little, I'm gonna let you know he mine now.
I was
you know
like,
how
I
you
don't
know
like
how y'all
Tyra.
you know how
She
y'all
was
get.
claiming, right? She was staking her claim and like putting it. Oh, you're his little friend from high school. You know, you're his friend from that he grew up with, right? I'm like, I wanted to say, no, B, I was more than that. I was no little friend.
Absolutely. So, with her finding out about that, and then that's when she goes to have the conversation with her mother as well too, and that dynamic with that mother-daughter relationship, and explaining to her, and she
Mm,
and everything. And you could tell that that probably is one, it surprised her that Quincy was
mm,
engaged, and then two, it was like, darn, here it is, the man that I'm in love with is with another woman. What do I do now? What do I do with
yeah.
this? What do I do with this? You know.
And that brought that mother daughter and that scene in the kitchen where the mother
Yeah.
is cooking and she's saying, when she says, well, Quincy, I don't know what to do. And she was like, who she married? He's married in that stewardess girl. And she was like, you met her? And she said, yeah, the mother had a cookout. She met her. And when she tells her she deserves better, Monica at that time doesn't know she's talking about her. But the mother, she was just like, oh, well, buy them a gift. And she's like, no. She wanted her mom to be like, no,
Yeah.
he needs to be with you. You need to ride for me. And she was like, why do you always have to answer and be so prissy? And she says decorum is something to her. She's not going, what you want me to go beat up the girl? She said, Alfred, what I said, what you want me to beat up the girl? And sometimes with that dynamic, I get it. As a daughter, as a mother, you want your mother or daughter to ride for you. You want to have that to say, no, say the words, opposed to just, well, you already know I want best for you, or I want him for you, or you're the better one. She wanted her mom she felt like her mom didn't have a backbone. And she talks about when she made the big dinner for the dad and she went through all of these things. And then the dad came home and ordered a pizza. And she was talking about, it was important to her to take care of him and do whatever. And she put her catering goals on the side to be there for her family. So that dynamic was interesting because Sanaa's Monica was from a different generation and she was a different personality. Whereas I said before, the sister was a little more like the mom with a little extra edge, Regina Hall. But then just how they could still come together and be mother and daughter and if they learn to just accept the differences. And I think that was really after she slapped her and said, oh, they cussing their mamas in Spain now. I said, oh, she went black mother on them. They cussing their mother in Spain now. Is that what they're doing? And but I think that was a moment that needed to be had for those two.
Yep.
And then she later comes back and say, remember I said Quincy could do better? I was talking about with you. And then Monica's face is like, wow. And I think that they came to some level of, now that Monica's a woman, they came to like a different type of relationship.
Well, I think that one was good, but I think the one that really kind of put that relationship shifted into another dynamic was when they were having
It's
in that
outside.
conversation.
Outside.
Huh? No, when they're standing
outside?
in the kitchen and
Oh,
she
okay.
no, when Sanaa Lathan asked her, she said, "Mom, I had about however many basketball games, and I
Yeah.
remember you only coming to one."
Yep.
She said, "Oh, Monica, I just never thought that you wanted me to be there."
Yep.
She said, "Mom, I wanted you there. And
Yeah.
it you can see it hit Alfred Woodard's character. It was like,
Yeah.
oh my God,
The
my child.
assumption that we
Yeah,
have.
the assuming I did that you didn't want me there, you didn't care about me being there. When Monica said, I cared, I wanted you
Yeah.
there. And it's a heartfelt thing to have a
Yeah.
parent have their child tell them that they wanted them to be there for them,
And they weren't.
and they weren't.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
like that hit like a
Yeah.
ton. That was like
Yeah.
that was like that punch that hit you right
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
your jaw. I just thought that
Yeah.
that was so deep because it made Alfred Woodard's character, the mom, be like, wow,
Yeah.
wow. She want, it wasn't about the basketball. Didn't have anything.
Yeah.
She just want it. It could have been anything. She
Yeah.
just wanted her mother to be there to
Yeah.
acknowledge to support her.
Yeah,
To
even in
support
the
her.
differences,
Right. Exactly.
because she was closer to the other daughter because she was
Mm,
more like her. And
right.
Monica's like, you don't have to like basketball. It's not about
Right.
liking basketball. It's
Yep.
about me seeing my mother's face there
Yep.
supporting me. It
Absolutely.
was more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and
Absolutely.
that's wow. So, all right. So we talked. So as we come to an end, we talked about, we already fast forwarded in the beginning. We talked about when she was coming from the bank and he was like, you traded in your Nikes for a pair of heels you can't even walk in.
Hilarious. That was hilarious. Yeah, because
And it's crazy.
she
All
was
this
not
stuff
comfortable.
is in my head. Like all of these lies are in my head. It's crazy.
She was, you could tell she was not comfortable at all working in a bank
Right.
doing the
Right.
9 to 5 like a father and everything like that. That was not her. That wasn't
But
going to
she
be
looked
her
cute.
at all.
She looked cute though.
Oh,
Her hair was
yeah,
cute. She looked cute.
absolutely, absolutely.
All right, so fast forward back, we already had the conversation about when 2 weeks before he was getting married to Tyra,
Right.
she told him how she felt. So let's go to the next to the last scene in the movie where they're at the basketball court and she's playing for his heart. So tell me what you were feeling. I already told you what my boy Jamal was saying. He was like, you know, he was laughing at that part because it was so sincere. And when she was talking trash, like, you sleepy, your feet hurt. And then, you know, and it's like almost like when she said, you once said, if I win, it's because you let me. So in the beginning, she's thinking she's winning because he wants her and he's letting her. And then he just starts slamming her. And, you know, she takes off her shirt, got her sports bra on, and he really starts playing. And then she's like, oh, shoot, maybe I was wrong. Maybe he don't want me. Maybe he is going to win. And then he gives that beautiful line. What is that, Leroy? What does he say? What does he
Double or
say?
nothing. Double or nothing. And that's the thing about
What
that
you say?
whole just that whole scene with her talking trash, her trash talking, and I believe he knew he could beat her anytime that he wanted to. It was just there's no NBA player that would lose to an WNBA player. It's
Mm-hmm.
just because they're naturally stronger, bigger, just more physical, and that's what that scene, him coming back and was to me was about because he knew he could naturally he could shoot. He was a better shooter, or she was maybe almost as good a shooter as he was. He was probably a better shooter than she was, and he knew at the end of the day that he could outmuscle her, and he would be able to score to win. That's why it was in of she had gotten a couple of buckets ahead and everything like that. And when he took the knee brace off, it was like, oh, here we go. Here it is. He's gonna really show her
He
my
was
knee is
like,
healed, my knee is fully healed, and that you can't, yeah, and you're not gonna beat me. And that's why he said double or nothing because he knew one, he still loved her. He still loved her, and it wasn't. He knew, hey, all right, we're still gonna play like we used to play, like we used to be out in the backyard when we played as little kids and stuff like that. But you know, it was great. That moment, the double or nothing was cool. It was his signal to her. All right, I'm not gonna get married to the other lady. That's what that double or nothing meant to me.
bye,
It was like,
Tyra. Bye.
right, exactly.
See ya. Bye. But then, and I and I know Tyra's name in the movie, and I can't even think right now. I just put it out of my head.
I don't even remember her name either. I don't
and
remember
I did
name
know. And I did
Okay.
Kyra. It was Kira. It was
Was
Kira. I think it was Kira. And then the last scene, my boy Donnell Jones comes on. Let me break it on down. Break it on down. And then in WNBA.
Yeah, her playing in the
And now
WNBA. They have
Quincy,
a kid.
and Quincy is sitting on the bench.
Yep.
And his wife, Monica, is the superstar athlete, right? So when you saw the end and it was a happy ending, did it make you feel all warm and cozy inside?
Well, I love I love the ending of it. Of like I said, one because of her coming to the WNBA, that kind of brought that dynamic into it where she was able to do what she loved to do, which was play basketball, and she could have that family because they had a kid at that time, and you had Quincy on sitting courtside with their little daughter, and it was like, okay, she's doing what she loves, and he's supporting her in what she wanted to do and what she wanted to be.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what happened to Quincy. You just know he had played in the NBA, but he got injured. You never know what he does. It doesn't really, it doesn't show kind of what he does after he gets injured.
Because remember he said he didn't even want basketball anymore because he was trying to be like his dad.
Right.
And he really remember he said he wanted to go back to school.
Right.
So maybe he went back to school, became an engineer. Maybe let's just, love
or even
basketball
in something in sports or whatever.
Sports agent.
But I thought that was cool. That it did show, like you said, that he did say that he was like he didn't want to play basketball, and he could he let Monica go and do her passion was still basketball at that time. So she was able to play basketball, and he was able to sit back and do whatever he did, and everything like that with whatever career that he had chosen to do and stuff like that. So I thought that was a great thing. Like I said, that soundtrack was the bomb.
It is. I cannot find though on Apple Music and all of that. I've been looking for that Holding Back the Years, like I said, from Angie Stone. I got all the other songs, but I cannot find that one. So I'm still on a hunt for that. But Leroy, this is episode 2. We did this.
I know, right?
So everybody tuning in, if you're watching live, thank you so much. Please leave comments. Ask us anything you want to ask us about the movies. And if you have a suggestion of a classic Black film that's been out for some time, because we don't want to spoil the movie for folks who haven't seen it, drop it below. Let us know what movie you want us to do. But next week we are doing Boomerang. Leroy wants to do Boomerang, and I'm loving it because that's one of my faves too. So Boomerang will be next week. I know that movie in and out too, and that's what it's about: Black classic films.
Yeah, and that was one of Eddie Murphy's best movies though too. I think Boomerang and Coming to America were, I think, 48 hours. Got to put 48 hours there too.
Yeah.
But Boomerang, because it didn't have cursing, and he didn't play multiple characters either. I think this one character that he played in that one was great. I thought that was one of
Marcus. We're gonna be talking about Marcus next week. We're gonna be talking about Marcus. But today it's all about Love and Basketball. So don't forget to share this with your friends. If you know someone that loves Love and Basketball as much as Leroy and I, share this video with them and let us know your input. Love and Basketball came out April 16th, 2020. It is almost 21 years old. So if you haven't seen it, you were just born or been living under a rock, you got to check out Love and Basketball starring Sanaa Lathan and Omar Epps. This was great, Leroy. Thank you. I wouldn't do this with anybody else but you.
I love it.
So if you out there watching and you love Boomerang and you know we're doing that next week, reach out, drop a message below in the comment box or email me at KendellLenice@gmail.com and say in the subject line, I love Boomerang too. And if you can make it on the show, we would love to have you pop on and tell us your favorite scene. Thank you everyone for watching. This is More Than Just a Movie, the breakdown, where we break down classic Black films. This week, it was Love and Basketball. Any last words, Mr. Leroy?
I'll say this. I just think that I appreciate you doing this because we don't talk about, Black cinema anymore. I don't even know if they do this about movies, period. But just having, being able to have conversations about strong Black movies that we know that were out here that are have lasted, are classics, and they've lasted throughout the times and everything like that. And we can, like you said, 21 years later, we can still talk about this movie.
Yeah.
And it's like we could after this, we could go watch it again. That's how good these movies are. That each of these, you could watch them anytime we see them on TV. Like you said, we know line for line. We know every line in the movie. We know what they was wearing, what all this stuff.
How their hair was. And I can't wait to bring up a point on Boomerang on what happened and what I saw. So I'm excited even about next week. Daryl called me and you Cisco and Ebert.
Right, exactly.
But yes. But thank you everyone for watching More Than Just a Movie here on Kendell Lenice, my YouTube channel. Subscribe and tell a friend. God bless y'all. See you next week.